Hey, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where we let the inner warrior shine in their light. Today I have Trish Ramirez. Trish is a financial coach and a Rotarian, and she's a Northern California gal. So welcome to the show, and I'm glad you joined us tonight.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So you said earlier off camera that you have been in California for about 50 years, 40 years. Where
You're
did you
telling
grow
my
up?
age.
Mine too. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Northern California. It's Marysville, Yuba City. It's up above Sacramento. So we grew up in the country, which was a great way and a place to grow up as children. I had all my cousins were around there, so it was just a really nice way to grow up.
So you're truly a native Californian.
Yes. Well, I was
Okay.
born in Washington, and there's stories behind that. But eventually, my mom remarried my dad, who was like my real dad to this day, and that's where he brought us, and his family lived.
Okay.
So,
So from Washington to California. You're a financial coach and a financial advisor, but also a Rotarian. And as someone who's been part of the Rotary for over 30 years, I know that that's a service-oriented way to give back. But you're also not just a member, you're a board president.
yeah. So I was president 2 years in a row. We have we call it a small but mighty club. There's only, I think, 15. So
Okay.
I was president for 2 years. In between, someone else was president. And then I had the privilege to go to Hamburg for the international convention, which just blew my mind on the Rotary and having people from all countries and nations and religions. And it just really moved me, how an organization could do that.
Well, Rotary is dear to me, not because I've been a part of it for 30 years, but because my very dear best friend was a Rotarian before she passed for about that same length of time. And she was secretary, treasurer, president multiple times. And she was just all around. That she's who got me into being a adjunct professor. One day she just said, they have an opening, you're good at it, go do it. And I'm like, okay. But we did a lot of service projects together, and I just love what Rotary does. But I also like that they're worldwide. So
Exactly.
you can go anywhere and find a Rotarian. What got you into that kind of service?
Well, I've been in the industry, financial industry for 35 years. And I worked many different various positions, but I became a financial advisor. And I went on my own, and then I wanted to network. So I joined every networking group you could think of, and nothing really got me until I happened to go to a Rotary meeting, and my sponsor, I met her through another networking event. She said, "Come to Rotary and speak." And I didn't know that was a way of eventually I would be joining. but
Yep.
but I just loved the the vibe there. Everybody was friendly, and it was like you could help other people, and I could bring my husband if I wanted to. They involved the family and the children, and so that really impressed me. So that's how I got involved with Rotary.
You were telling me off camera about a weekend event that was some kids, and
Oh,
I'd like
yes.
you to dive into that a little more because I think back in, and I'm going to age myself, back in my day in high school, junior high, we had home economics and we had home ec and finance. So we got to learn how to keep our house and do our finances. They took all that plus all the shop out. So the things that you were doing for Rotarian for these children, I think is vital, especially in today's world of economy. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Sure. Sure. So this is a program that's been around for 20, maybe 25 years. And the same person that got me into Rotary, she encouraged me to be a camp counselor. And so what they do is they look for 16, 17-year-olds or junior seniors, and Rotary clubs will sponsor a team. And so once they get done, they get to go back and tell the club about what they learned and how it went. But so we had about 23, I believe, this year from all over Northern California, teams, and then they meet each other for the first time. We put them in groups. That's on a Wednesday. Put them in a group, and then by the end of the day, they have to come up with a business product, some sort of product, and we teach them how to write a business plan. We teach them how to present, um, about the financials of a company, how to, it's really like entrepreneurship, how to, be a startup. And then by Sunday, they present to 3 sharks that we have. And then at that time, the family and other Rotarians or friends can come and watch them. And to see them change from Wednesday when they came to Sunday, I mean, it's moving. I've been in tears because it's just like, wow, it's amazing the change that they go through. And it's very fulfilling, very
So
much.
you were Lori Grenier before Lori. Um, have any of these young individuals then gone on to actually develop the business plan that they presented?
So some of them have, and what's interesting is, since we're in near Silicon Valley, one of our Rotarians has is really an entrepreneur and an inventor and has created a lot of products. And off the top of my head, I can't think of them right now, but he will come and speak. And there's been certain ideas that he's heard from the kids that if he finds that it's something, hey, this is a good idea, he will, meet with them and see what can we do to get this really going and do something with it. So I'm trying to think of one. I can't really think of one, but I know that there's a lot of opportunities if they come up with ideas, which they do come up with some amazing ideas. And it makes me think, oh, I want to invent something, because it's just so much, the whole mindset there is let's create. And it's just a really creative environment that with fresh, new, young minds.
Do you find that the younger minds are easier to work with than the adults you work with?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes, definitely.
And why would you say,
Well, they don't have all the walls that we've built up over the years. As adults, I think what happens is, we're 5, we'll go run and play and jump, but we don't care if we're too loud. And then the older we get, we realize, or someone says, you need to quiet down or you're too much. And so we start to kind of stop ourselves from doing certain things. And I mean, there were times with these kids that we put them on the spot to go speak and they don't want to. And so usually by the end of that hour, they'll go up and speak. So they're still pretty much open to trying something new, whereas adults might say, no, I don't want to do that.
yeah, well, they say that public speaking is one of the greatest fears that people have. And I don't understand because maybe because I've been doing it for so long, you're on your phone all day, you're on your computer all day, you're on a Zoom call all day, you're interacting on social media all day. It's not much different than getting in front of people and delivering whatever your message is. It's the
Yes,
platform is different. So I don't understand why people are so afraid of it, but I'm glad that you're teaching the young kids early on. That is a public skill that they're going to need forever.
exactly.
So I think you're right. It is the mindset that gets tamped down as we get older, which leads me into how does I'm trying to think of all when you ask a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not sure I've heard financial coach top on the list. So how does one get into the financial planning business or the coaching industry like you have?
Well, it's interesting. It started out that I wanted to be a missionary when I was young. Growing up, I grew up in a religious family, and that's what I wanted to do. And then, life happens. I didn't become a missionary, but I've always been one to want to be in service, which Rotary really fulfills that. But I feel that as a financial advisor, I was actually pretty fortunate. Because I never went to college. I have taken college since then, but I wasn't in college. And usually you need to have a degree to be a financial advisor. But I started out as an assistant. I worked my way up to management and eventually became a financial advisor. And I have been able to help people change their lives when it comes to money. So that's a fulfillment that brings me to actually be able to do that. And coaching came in because I work with people with money, but I wanted to help people that maybe didn't have as much money. So how can we help them, to get to a point where they can change their lives? So coaching has been a good thing to do that.
I know that you can throw a dart and hit a lot of financial advisors. You can hit a lot of coaches. You can hit a lot of realtors. I've been all of those. Um, but when you are coaching someone, um, it's a little different than consulting them on their finances. So how do you differentiate yourself from just a financial planner?
So what I think is really important is to really go to why are you spending the way you spend? What is your money story? So I like to go way back to the very beginning. What was the first thing you remember as a child hearing about money? Was it your parents arguing, or did you get an allowance? What is the first thing that you remember? And so that's one of the ways that I, find out what's their story. But then another exercise that's kind of fun to do is have them write a letter to money if it's a person. And
Mhm.
then that also brings out a lot of interesting ideas of what they have. So then I can assess where they're at as far as money.
You and I both grew up in religious homes, and one of the things that irritates me about religion is that it's a set of rules governed by man instead of spiritual laws by God. And one of the things that really irks me is how they teach people to be fearful of acquiring money or being successful. And in my opinion, it is written in the Bible, God, of abundance, of giving more, of giving you 10 times what you gave back. That does not say fear money. That to
Right.
me says go out and be prosperous. Because if I want to go into any restaurant, McDonald's, I don't care, buy everyone a cup of coffee, I can't do it unless I have money.
That's right.
So it's not that money is the root of all evil. It's the lust of money that is the root of all evil, and how you acquire it and spend it determines whether or not you have that relationship. So I would imagine religion is one thing that you have to overcome in counseling these individuals, is it not?
It's true. And I've had my own personal journey, just, as you said, because I kind of fell into the financial industry. So I did have in my own head of money's bad, money. So I had this internal conflict that I had to work out myself. And so that's how I've, done a lot of research. I've read a lot of different books to help with that. And so there's a way, and that's what I'm actually launching a program later this month, but to try to reframe or reprogram our mind that money is not bad. It's just a thing that we use, to exchange or to get goods or whatever. And so that's really the crux of where I try to focus on that it's not a bad person. It's not a person.
Right. It's a
Also,
tool.
it's a
It's
tool.
a tool. I
Right.
mean, they used to trade, barter,
Mhm. Right.
goods and services. So the more you had, the more you could acquire.
Right.
It's what is a tool or a tip that you use to help break people's money thought or cycle with that version of money?
So it's really what you just brought out is that money is not bad because the more we have, the more we can help. We're both in Rotary, and then the more we can donate to help other people, money can be a useful tool. So it's reframing that, but it's also doing a lot of journaling. I think journaling is important to do. Another exercise that I like to use is give me 100 words of what you think of with money, and you can see all kinds of different things that come with that. But I think journaling is very important in really reprogramming that frame of mind. I think that's helpful to do that.
Well, if you're not superficial about it, if you actually go deep and start writing the true, because in my coaching experience, people want to give you the first layer of the onion. You have to
Hmm.
really work for them to give you the second layer.
Right.
But journaling allows that to bubble up. I have a friend of mine who's a really good coach, and I admire what she does. And I call her an excavator because she'll gently brush away one layer so that the next layer can be exposed and come to the surface. I know plenty of people who are more like dynamite people. they go
Hmm.
in and they blow it up and they just, explode everything,
Right.
whereas she's a little more gentle. So I think journaling is a way to bubble up the next level so you can continue to go deeper if you're allowing yourself to be real honest with your feelings about what you're writing. And if you
Hmm.
don't try to control the writing, if you just let it flow,
Right.
it kind of helps with that. Is that what
It's
you find?
true. It's true. And also I think it's important that some people say, well, I don't know what to write, but it's really amazing if you just start writing, everything just starts to come out. And I think that that's important. And another way I think about money is not just your relationship with money, but how do you use money with like your husband or a friend, or how does money affect those relationships also? So that's like another piece of layer that you can really tear off when you go on a date and he pays, how is all of that? How do you think of all of that? How do you react to that? So it's just interesting the different ways that you can really see how money affects your life, your whole life.
Well, I think the journaling part, I think the key is to not try to control what you're writing, but just
Right.
let it flow. And, don't worry about spelling, don't worry about punctuation, just let it flow. Because once you start to edit it, then you
Right.
stop the flow and it becomes harder to think about. It's interesting what you said about, how is it with your relationship with your family or your friends or your loved one? Oftentimes I see parents, especially divorced parents, use money as a weapon with their kids. The one
Mm-hmm.
parent will buy everything and the other parent will scrimp and save for
Mm-hmm.
nothing, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a weapon. So then the child learns to weaponize it as
Right.
well.
Right.
And I think that's a even bigger hurdle that then you have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
You find that?
Exactly. Yes, definitely. Exactly. And I have this one saying, Prince Charming is not your financial plan. And it could be either way. It doesn't have to just be women and men, but I think that that's very important, and part of this uh knowing your money story is in empowering that person once they figure things out, to where they don't need to have somebody to take care of them. This is something that they can be empowered to do on their own. But yes, you're right. When parents do that, they can learn at such a young age to manipulate, and you may not even realize that that's what you're doing. So being aware is like key. That's the very first thing. 'Cause people may think I'm fine with money, but it just becoming aware, and journaling really helps with that also.
I found as a child growing up, we got an allowance, but
Hmm.
it was tied to our chores.
Right.
Like
Same
every
thing.
chore, every chore had a value, and the more of the chores you got done, the bigger your value at the end. So it really taught a work ethic and that nothing's for free. They're not just
Right.
giving you money, you're actually earning it. But it also kind of had a reverse thing, that it had to always be hard work and earned. And that's
Hmm.
not really the case, don't you think?
I agree. I agree. It's so funny because so my husband worked for the utility company, and he was always hard work digging ditches. And then our son, he's my stepson, but he's like my real son. He was an entrepreneur. He's actually really opened my eyes to entrepreneurship. So he would come back home and visit, and he would be in bed on his laptop. And my husband was like, "What are you doing? Don't you need to work?" It was really hard for us to understand. He was like, I am working, but you're right. We grew up where it was had to be hard. You had to like sweat, but that doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's free and that you don't have to do anything for it,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be a constant grind and
No.
hard. It doesn't have to be hard work. It has to be work. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be hard work, and it doesn't, you know, I believe everything's energy and so is money. And
Hmm.
if you cut off the flow of it, you make it hard work, hard to attain. If you
Right.
let it flow and do your part, that's why I am such a believer in co-creation. Like
Hmm.
God can give you a silver shovel, but if you don't put some muscle behind it, it's
Exactly.
just a silver shovel, right? So
Exactly.
I think we have to do our part, and but I don't think it has to be that grind it out.
No,
Um,
it can
my
actually be fun. You can actually enjoy what you do.
Yeah, And the more you enjoy it, I think the more money comes to
Yes,
you, and the
exactly.
less you stop chasing it, the more it actually attracts to you. Our son is into podcasting, or not podcasting, sorry, YouTubing,
Mm,
uh, streaming videos and whatever. And when he was growing up, if my wife would have known the amount of money he was able to earn by goofing off, she would have encouraged him to goof off a little bit more,
yeah,
you know.
yes,
uh,
exactly.
but like her parents before her and my parents before me, got to go to school, got to get a job, got to go to
Mhm.
college, got to get a job. It doesn't have to be that way. Our money story can change, and we can change it at any age, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. We can rewrite that money story.
We can rewrite that. So how do you help someone rewrite their money story?
So again, it's a lot of it is journaling. I have group exercises where, for maybe 10 minutes we write about money, we share it. It's a safe container that people can do that. And then actually write, what is it that you really want? What is it that you would really like to create? And dream big, completely outside the box. Do that. Which is, if I go back to that camp venture, that's what I love about the kids is they dream huge outside the box, something I've never thought of. And that's what I really encourage in my courses is for people to do that. And then it's okay, let's see if we can create an action plan to get there. And then they're like, wow, maybe this is something that is attainable. So, I mean, this is a process over a few weeks. It's not, one time, but
Sure.
it's something that it really helps people to realize that that's something that's a possibility because, as you know, we create what we want in life. It's not just whatever life gives us. And that's just what I want to share with them, because that's what's possible.
Well, far too often we create what we don't want because that's what
Right.
we keep thinking of. We keep thinking of all that we don't want, and then that's what's
Hmm.
attracted to us, and we wonder why that's what's attracted to us. So, reframing from what you don't want to what you do want, that in and of itself is a big step. But what is the reaction of your clients? I've hired Trish Ramirez. She's going to come help me with my financial planning. And now suddenly she's talking to me about journaling and my mindset and like, what the heck's all this woo-woo crap? I want the actual meat and potatoes.
Right. Well, I mean, I do have my business where I am the financial advisor, and I don't necessarily always share with them, the journaling part, but there are a lot of, they do know that, because I do have my Instagram and I'm always talking about all of this. So they do know, what I do also to help other people. And people are pretty open to it. It's amazing how people are really pretty open to it. I think it's become a little bit more acceptable with the manifesting and attracting nowadays, especially, with the younger generation that's there. I went to a leadership training. This is what really opened my eyes to it. And that's where I really learned about attracting and abundance, and we're all energy. And it all to me really made sense, even though it does sound woo woo, but it really made sense to me. And there was a lot of younger people because I think I was the oldest one, but there were a few people that were my age. And I think it's something that's kind of taking, um, people are accepting it more these days than maybe they used to.
Yeah, I think our society has brought it out of the closet into the mainstream. And I've often said my coaching and stuff is where the woo meets the work
Oh, I love it.
because, again, I go back to the co-creation. You have to do your part, but
Right.
you can manifest what you want. It is a mindset. I believe personally that everything we do revolves around mindset. And if you can change the mindset, you can change your life. And I think you do a great job of introducing the two so that they get the financial goals that they want, but they do it in a way that not only transforms their relationship with money, but I would bet their relationship with everything else around them because they've changed their mindset. Do you find that to
Exactly.
be true for your clients?
Exactly. I do. I really do. And I told you earlier, a couple weeks ago, I said I want to be on a podcast. I wasn't saying it for woo-woo purposes. I think I was telling my husband that. And then, a week later, I was introduced to you. So it's just like, wow, it's just amazing how you can attract or manifest what you want if you're
Yeah.
open.
The universe will conspire to help you.
Yes.
For money, I'm sure you've done this with your clients, but one of the tools that I've found really helpful for money is called the prosperity game, where
Mm,
you arbitrarily, start off with $250 and you have to journal how you received it and how you spent it. And you have to spend all 250, and it can't be on bills and it can't be giving it to somebody else.
mhm,
So you really, and then every day, the money that comes to you doubles until the final day where you're already at $1 million. So it has to, every day you have to write how it came to you and then how you spent it. And again, it can't be on bills and it can't be by giving it away. So by day 4, when the money starts becoming big, and by day 6, when the money starts becoming uncomfortable, now it really forces you into that journaling, into that mindset, you know,
mhm.
okay. And then my experience from the people that I've seen do it alongside me, it starts to change your worthiness about receiving it.
Ah, that's
So
huge.
yeah. So can you address how the worthiness plays into?
Oh, but I can see, yes, the worthiness, because a lot of times we want to say, I want this, I want this, I want to receive it, but we're closed off to actually receiving it. And it is because of the worthiness. And people don't really realize that maybe that's why they don't want to invest in themselves in coaching, or they don't want to spend because they don't feel that they're worthy themselves. So that's really huge. And you don't realize that you're actually shutting off that receiving part. So I think I've even went through that, when it came to actually investing in myself. It's like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And then it's like, well, why don't I want to do that? And so it's good to really take a look and be aware, because you don't want, it's like your mind is telling you one thing, but your body, you're doing something else to counter it. So that's really important.
Well, that game, the prosperity game, forces you to a point because you can see where people's line is about their worthiness.
Hmm.
When the numbers start becoming unrealistic, that's where their line is about their worthiness to receive above that line. And it's very interesting because you can get a clear picture. Okay, this is where they are on their money scale. This is all they think they're worth. And
Hmm.
you can even see that in people who've won the lottery,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
They can win the lottery and within 3 years they can be broke again because
Right.
there wasn't the amount that went into their bank account. It's what they thought they were worth and how they spent it to keep it. And if
Exactly.
they have a bad relationship with money, they're not going to tend it well.
And it's so true. And that's what I focus on in my course is, people will say, well, if I made more money, I would be okay with my bills. But then what really happens is they just have more bills, or they spend more money. So it's really not about how much money they're making. It's about, why are you doing what you're doing? And that's, again, part of the worthiness. Why are you doing that?
And
So,
so how do you help them overcome that part?
so that part is, especially one of my, the I understand, because I've been through myself, is, if they're borrowing from their 401k, or if they're getting a loan to consolidate their bills, and then they still have new bills that they're creating. And it's really looking at, I think you need to look at, see, what is your story, and where did that come from? And that's when I go in deep, like as you said, peel the layers. Let's talk about this. Let's journal. There's different exercises that we use to really peel those layers. And then once they see that, once they're aware, then it really helps them to be able to reframe, and it's not any magic that's going to happen, because it's something I think we have to do constantly our whole life to get
Mhm.
better and better. But being aware of it, that's like key to do that, to be aware of it.
When I taught small business entrepreneurship at the college, you'd have these adults come in with their desire to leave their day job to be their own boss and start their own business. And there was always a 4-letter word that they hated: work. You still got to do the work.
Yep.
It is, like you said, not a magic bullet, You
Right.
have to do the work. And sometimes the work is internal, sometimes the work is external, sometimes it's both simultaneously, but you got to do the work.
Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah.
not something that's just going to come easy.
No, well, it's not going to come instantaneously.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So if you had a new client and they came on and they said, Trish, I'm I'm clay, mold me. What
Hmm.
would be your first step other than the journaling? Like what is your
My first tip is, well, I think really talking to them to find out where they're at, to assess where they're at. Um, and then once I really want to know that they're committed to really trying to make a change or trying to figure out what's going on with themselves. And a lot of times when I start out, or what are your three goals that you want from our meetings? What is it that you're looking for to do? So it's really about them and being personalized in what they want, getting to know them, to find out, okay, why do you do what you do? What is your money story? Um, I think that those are really important to do that and not just like cookie cutter, cookie can't say it,
cookie
cookie
cutter?
cutter, one size fits all, we're going to do it this way. But it's really getting to know them personally. I think that's really important to see why they do what they do and what their goals are and see if we can really match that, and
I
help them.
think it is important. I think that's a downfall of many coaches is that they think it's a one size fits all. You do have to, yeah, you can have the same tools, but how you utilize them has to be different
Mhm.
for the individual on what they're trying to attain and how they're trying to, you know,
Yeah.
advance their life. Do you find, what's your one red flag that you say, nope, this person is always going to be where they are?
Well, I know that a lot of times we all have excuses and reasons, but if it just keeps coming up the same excuse or the same reason and it's everybody else's fault, there's a point where I have to say, okay, I'm really wasting your time and your money, and so maybe this isn't, a good fit, which it really would take a lot to do that. But if someone's not willing to be accountable, I guess is the word, and be open to it, then it's not going to work. And and that might be enough to shock them and say, well, wait a minute, why, but
Have
but
you
yeah,
ever fired a client?
um, I have, I have. It's not fun. It's not a fun thing to do, but I want, you know, you want like that exchange of energy to be productive and positive. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be times where, there's tears and everything, and I'm okay with that. But if I feel like this isn't working, it's like a gut thing that it's just, you just got to do what you got to do.
And are you able to assess that after one meeting or does it take multiple?
I would say probably after three. I mean, honestly, I'd probably see it in the first meeting, but I don't want to give up that quickly. So I could probably tell in the first meeting, but I would give it like two or three meetings. And then I don't want to waste their time and money. And, because, a lot of that energy, you get that as a coach. So, I want to protect myself also. That's important to do that.
And you've been in financial advising, coaching for a long period of time. What's one of your most astonishing turnarounds, success stories?
So success stories, I would say is, I had someone that came to me and she is a financial client and I'm actually her coach too. And one of the important things was paying off her bills. That's what she had debt. But that's not really how it worked. I mean, that's what she wanted to do. It was more into diving into, and she had a lot of issues growing up as a child. There were a lot of, there was abuse and everything in her, in her life. So what's really helped turn that I saw the change is she is an entrepreneur. Her business is now successful, which she was always on that path. But in the last, recent few months, I've really seen her bloom, and she's able to now share her story, which sometimes I think people are embarrassed to share their story of, why, whatever they do. But that's really when other people see you vulnerable, and that's when you can really attract. So I've just seen a whole different change in her confidence and empowerment, where now she's speaking on stages, for different, for like government type people, so she's on stage, and that's been really something that's really wonderful, that I'm very proud to see that.
Watching people blossom and step into who they are
Hmm.
is the
Yeah.
best feeling, watching them live their authentic life for a
Yes.
change and not hide behind whatever was preventing them from doing so. I think
Hmm.
it's a huge gift to give someone else the ability
Yes.
to step into their own power and to help guide them in the way that can do that. What is a goal of yours? You wanted to be on a podcast, not to just, tell your story or share that you're a financial coach. What is it
Hmm.
that Trish wants to accomplish?
I I want to change the world. No, I just think, one person at a time, if we can, and I'm sure you feel the same way. If you can help someone and then they pay it forward, that's what I always ask them to do, is to pay it forward. If I do something nice for someone unexpectedly, pay it forward to someone else. And then hopefully, we could live in a better world. And it may be one person at a time, but if you're doing it, I'm doing it, we're all doing it, then hopefully, that's what can happen. I'm not gonna, I mean, that might be kind of Pollyanna type, but same with Rotary, if we can all just help people as a community, it would just be a much better place.
And paying it forward doesn't necessarily mean with money.
Right,
You
right.
can pay it forward in many, many ways. And I
Yes.
think one to many, you throw a rock in a pond, you get some ripples, but by the time it gets to the other end of the pond, it's a bigger wave.
Hmm.
The ripple effect is very valid. So paying it forward is a huge thing, but that even in of itself is a mindset.
It is. It
Am I
is.
going to give as much as I receive?
Yes. And you know what? So I did what really changed, like I said, a few years ago, I did a leadership training. And I have met in the last few years so many incredible people once I changed my mindset to thinking the way that I think now. And to me, that's been a huge blessing. It's just meeting you through Sarah, and I've just met a lot of incredible people who think the same way. And that's when I'm like, wow, things can really change if we allow it to. So,
One of the things that I talk to my clients about, and this doesn't matter if they're an entrepreneur or if they're just someone who wants to live a better life, your ultimate goal is to be a lighthouse.
mhm.
And lighthouses don't run up and down the shore looking for boats. They stand in one spot, they shine their lights, and the boats come to them. So whatever light you're admitting, those are the boats that are going to come to you. And if your light is dim and dark, that's what
Hmm.
you're going to attract on the shore. If
Right.
your light is bright and inviting, that's what you're going to attract on the shore. So your job is just to be a lighthouse,
That's
not
right.
stand up and down the shore screaming for a
Hmm.
boat, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I'm finding there's a
And
lot of lighthouses.
there are a lot of lighthouses, and it's nice that you're actually one of them who is out there trying to help the world and change the world, because money is a necessity that we can't get around, and how
Hmm.
we treat it and how we handle it. Look, if you can't handle $10, you're not going to handle $1,000.
Right.
And if you're like, so the visual that I use for people is a clenched fist, right? If your fists are clenched, you can't receive anything. If you're grasping onto every dollar you have because you don't want to let it go, you can't receive any more. But if you open your hands, now you can receive a lot.
Right.
But with the receiving is the giving. You're
Hmm.
no longer clenching, you're letting it flow through you. And so people like you out there helping change the mindset of how they value that helps illustrate that and helps the money actually flow even more in and around them.
Right.
Correct?
Correct. And there's a saying that I heard that no one goes poor from giving, donating money, contributing money. That's not the reason, no one gets poor that way. But if anything, and I'm not saying that this is why you do it, but you actually attract it. But you're right, it's like you need to have your hands open and not be closed up. And that's so true. That's very true.
Well, I think it all goes hand to hand. It goes, your mind has to be open, your heart
Okay.
has to be open, and your hands have to be open.
Yep. That's
Like if
right.
any part of those are closed, you're sitting on a three-legged stool that's wobbly,
Exactly. Yes,
right?
that's true.
So if you are on more podcasts and you're spreading your message out there more, what do you want to do with that message other than attract more boats? Obviously you want clients, but ultimately there's
Well,
a goal
I
bigger than that.
I just think I know that there's because I was that person, stressed out, anxious, and actually I look now and it's like it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what I want to share with people. You don't have to be stressed out and anxious. I always believe there's a way, there's a solution. And it could be just a matter of your mindset, of changing that mindset. Yeah, I make it sound easy, but it's all something that you can really control in yourself. But a lot of people don't know that. They just keep going on with life and get cancer or whatever because they're all stressed out. And if I can help someone just a little bit that way, then that's what I want to do. If I can change someone's life in a small way, that's what I want to do.
And I think that's a pretty admirable thing to want to do. Giving back and helping others in a very important way. I admire, your journey and your goal. What is your one message to the people who are listening today? What would you really like to hit home for them?
I would like to hit home that you can control or create the life that you want. You don't have to just take whatever comes at you, but you can actually create what you want. I didn't know that for many years. And you can live a happy life. It doesn't mean you're going to have a big, huge house but you can actually create what you want to create and have a happy life, even if
Well,
life still happens.
yeah, and I think people misconstrue a happy life for a stress-free life, and our goal isn't to be stress-free or
No,
problem-free. Our goal is to be able to handle bigger problems because that means
right.
we've grown as a person and we've
Exactly.
grown, as we kind of, and we could talk for a long time on this subject because I'm very fascinated by it. But as I always ask every one of my guests, what does a warrior spirit or having a warrior spirit mean to Trish?
Being relentless, never giving up, no matter what happens, just be bold, courageous, and just keep going.
I love that definition, and I think that you definitely embody that, having done what you've done for many years, and still out there. Look, you still do it with a smile and a drive, and that means that you're doing it well. So, I certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your message with others. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, always ask. You got the open door to
Thank you.
use it however you want to.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My very first podcast. Thank you so much.
First podcast, and then look how quickly it went by. You
I
did
know.
wonderful. So
It's great. Thank you.
you and your husband have a blessed night, and we'll do it again.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.